Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Ever wonder how I know all these little tips and tricks on the Mac? Well, it's because I'm curious and I explore. Let me show you how to do it. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So, how do I know all these different tips and tricks? How do I always come up with these little things that nobody else seems to notice? Well, it's because I just explore all the time in all the different apps in the operating system. For instance, here in Pages, I may just go through all of the different menu items and take a look at what each one does. Maybe spend some time exploring each one of these things, see what all the submenus do, see what happens when I bring them up. Here's a shape. Here are all the different things you can do with text, styling, arrangements, and shapes. I try all these different things. I play around and every once in a while I come up with something new. But even if I don't, I get better at dealing with all of the different interface elements here, doing different things, and using Pages. Now, I can understand if you're reluctant to do that while you're working on a document. After all, you've got this perfectly put together and you want to say experiment with this shape here. Do you really want to do it in your main document? You can always try to change something and then if you don't like it you can just use undo. But also another good thing to do is just to have sample documents. Create sample documents all the time. Go to File, New, create a sample one here. It's blank. And try things in here. Maybe even copy and paste elements from one document to another and then play around with the different things that you could do here and try them out. And if you get something you like, you can repeat those steps over here or even copy and paste back. But nothing changes in your original document, the one that's really important and you don't want to screw up, until you are sure you've got everything down. Now another thing you could do is simply duplicate the document. If you think you want to make some changes but you want to know that you can go back to it, you can of course rely on the ability to revert to. But you can also simply duplicate that document. And now I've got two. You can see this one I haven't saved yet and maybe I won't even save it. Maybe I'll go in here and I'll make changes to text and do all sorts of different things, try some things out, and I'm not changing my original document at all. I'm just playing around with this one. Maybe I just learned something new and then I close this one and delete it and go back to working on this one. Or maybe the new thing I learned I'm going to now apply in the original document. Now you can apply the same thing to the whole Mac user interface. Say you want to play around with the dock or with some accessibility settings or your desktop wallpaper, but you don't want to screw things up in your main account. You can create a second account. Just go to System Settings and in there go down to Users and Groups. And here you can add an account. You can create this account, use your name, use a different account name, maybe something temporary or to indicate that it's not something you're going to keep. Give it its own password and then create that new user account. You don't even have to sign into iCloud in that new user account if you don't want to. You could use that second account and play around with the entire set of Mac preferences and see what works, what doesn't, and it won't change your main account. Just switch back to your main account when you're done and maybe leave that one around for more testing. Or if you want to get rid of it, you could always select that account here, click on the I button next to it, and delete it if you think you'll no longer need it anymore. I very often create sample accounts, use them to test things out, and then delete them when I'm done. Now back in regular apps, a lot of times apps include things like templates. If you go to New, you get all these templates that you can take a look at. If you want to learn new things, go into these templates and take a look at how they're built. For instance, here in Numbers, there are a whole bunch of templates. I can go, say, into this running log template, look at this chart, look at the data references, see how it's built with these different data references. I can go and look at the different cells here. I could check out cell formatting, see what it's got. Here's a formula in here. Interesting, it's not just adding or dividing these two things. It's actually putting an if error around it, and that will actually prevent this from being an error if the distance is 0. It's just looking to see if both of these are actually numbers, then it's going to give a number. Otherwise, say if I change the distance to 0, you see instead of an error I get a blank. So right there, just by exploring, you might learn a little something, in this case how to use the if error function. Other times it helps when you're working in an app to set a goal, something that you can't do or can't seem to do in the app, but let's see if you could figure out a way. For instance, I want to have text go across the top of this video here. Is there a way to do it? I can look through all of the different options for titles and I won't find anything that has the text at the top. But perhaps I could go and say take this centered one, put that there, and I could see then it's centered. Let's see what happens if I get rid of the second line. That's fine. And what if I just put a bunch of blank lines underneath? The text seems to go near the top. Let's see what that looks like. It doesn't really kind of match up the final product with what's there. I need to put it a little bit above that to actually get it to be where I want. There we go. So now I can go back in here, maybe set this up for my text like that, add a few extra lines, and I get what I want. All from just playing around. And of course in iMovie I could have just created a new project to figure this out instead of messing around with the project I'm in the middle of working on. You can also check out documentation for apps. Like here in iMovie, if I go to iMovie Help, there's iMovie Help under that, and you see there's table of contents. I can go into the table of contents here and I could go and look at different things that are there and read about them and maybe discover something I hadn't used before in iMovie. Likewise here in Pages, I go to Pages Help up here and there's a table of contents. And then I can go in here and maybe look up things that maybe I hadn't thought about. Maybe I don't need to use facing pages, but one day I could explore this, and then when I do need to use it, I've already learned how to do it, or at least I know where to look to get that information. And then finally, of course, there are online tutorials. My site, of course, is all online tutorials, but you could just search YouTube for lots of them by other people as well. At my site, if you just want to explore, you can click on video tutorials at the top, and then it's broken down by category. So you can just search through if you've got some spare time and you want to learn a little something about using, say, iMovie. Then you can click here and get a list of just iMovie tutorials, browse through them, and maybe find one that looks interesting and jump to that and learn that new technique. The important thing is, though, that you just stay curious. Spend some time just exploring. Don't use an app only when you need to use it, but set aside some time to create sample documents, maybe take old documents and see if you can improve them, learn new skills, so the next time you need to use that app to do something, you're better at it and you have more techniques that you can draw on. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.